Hello everyone, I'm Pastor Don Norden. I'm the founder and the CEO of Global Ministries Network. Global Ministries Network oversees churches, trains ministers, helps people to have access to resources that they desperately need. We are not a denomination, we are in the truest sense of the word, a ministry network where we connect people and we connect ministries and we connect resources. We do credential ministers and help to oversee churches. If you would like to become a part of Global Ministries Network, we would love to walk with you. There's a link that you can click there that will give you additional information. And if you're looking for a tribe to connect with, we hope that we are that tribe for you. So we look forward to hearing from you, and we would love to have a conversation with you about being a part of Global Ministries Network. God bless you.
Welcome to GMN's podcast, Leadership Blueprint, Foundational Kingdom Strategies for Leading Well. And we just want to thank you for joining us today. And we have a very special guest, as always. But today, this is not just any guest. He is actually my brother, Floyd. So welcome. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on here and the great introduction.
Yeah. And so the reason why we kind of chose you and really wanted to just kind of have the conversation, because in some ways I almost feel like the path of our life has swapped to where you were on this church leadership trajectory and vocational ministry, and I was on this business work trajectory, and then now we're almost kind of switched where you're leading Bob's Truck Care. It's a third generation from our grandpa. And so just give me a little background just about, your leadership journey. You've been through a few business shutdowns.
Yeah, so it's been a long journey. I was thinking about that really on the way over here, and how at the time it seemed like it was taking forever. But then when I look back, it just feels like yesterday. But yeah, so whenever I started really with my relationship with Jesus, getting to know him in a deeper way, I was about 15. And that was really kind of the jumping off point for me into ministry. That's where I want to be. That's where I felt called to. I think it was a youth conference when I was about 16 or 17. And, they had a call to who felt called to ministry. Yeah, always. And, about 90% of the people in there were called to the ministry. So that was kind of always my trajectory and the direction I was headed, mostly around leading worship. I started leading worship when I was 17 and really just started heading that direction with the end goal being ministry. My intention when I graduated high school was to go to a college out in California that I was gonna be able to get my degree to become a youth pastor, and that was my full intention. And then everything changed when I met a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually does.
So when I met my wife Tamata in the first day of school, right after high school, first day of college. Pretty much everything changed from there, but so I had to go get a real job. I had to so that I could support our family, but still in the back of my mind, I always had this goal of full-time ministry. Mm-hmm. I always figured that was where I would end up at, and so I ran after that for a long time. Really growing up, whether it was said or not, we had this secular versus sacred divide. And for me, secular was, the world, and that's not where we're called to be. And I need to be inside the church. I need to do the better thing. So I chased that for 20 years probably. Every time there's many times Pastor Norden would call me and like, hey, I got an opportunity at this church. Do you want to do it? And it just never felt right. It never felt like the right move. And so I never really took that full time. But the whole time I was volunteering, serving most Sundays, serving on Wednesdays in youth. And through that, really gaining some good leadership experience that's helped me in life through different classes that we've had at the church or just mistakes I've made as leaders, through the years, really helped me grow in that. And from there, I got a job out at one of the plants, and I think that's really where my leadership growth and development took off. Mm-hmm. I had some opportunities to go to some coaching classes there, and it really started showing me a different form of leadership and a different way of leading than I had been exposed to before. So that really helped me, I guess, start to see a different way, start to see a different path other than just ministry.
Mm-hmm. So our kind of main audience is not necessarily who we're trying to broaden this and expand it, outside of the church, but our main audience at this time is really pastors and ministry leaders and things like that. And so I kind of want to focus in on really what our background was of having that kind of dualistic mindset and how important it is on how we're leading and really instructing people. And because I know for myself, it was almost felt like you were lesser than because you're just working this secular job. And so is there anything you can kind of speak directly towards that, just kind of that really shaped your path of what you're going after?
Yeah, that definitely was, I guess, the guiding factor for me of really wanting to go in the ministry was because, it felt like everything outside of the church was secular. Mm-hmm. It wasn't good. I felt like the only thing that we were really taught was you work so that you can give back into the ministry and so that you can hopefully win your friends to Jesus and bring them to church, where then they keep feeding into the ministry. So that's really the thing for me of that separation, that sacred versus secular separation was, well, secular's bad, sacred's good. So I want to stay away from secular and really lean into sacred.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that it kind of, I've said this before, but almost this idea that like the pastor, like he had that direct red telephone that just went to the throne room of heaven, and us, poor little regular folks out here in the world, we just got to come and experience the minimal or whatever God would graciously give us an experience with Him out inside the church, and so. To me, the big shift was really Thomas Hale, really started breaking that dualistic mindset.
Yeah.
And changing that for me.
Yeah, between him and Joseph Matera at the time, that was really the things that started breaking that mindset for me. And I think that's one really cool thing that you and I have been able to experience together is that over the last 10 years, we've been able to walk this journey together. Yeah. And it's interesting because I haven't thought about it, but you said how our paths have kind of crisscrossed because, even 10 years ago, I was still had in the back of my mind that I was going to go full-time ministry. And it was probably that 2016, 2017 timeframe when a lot of those mindsets started getting broken down. And, kind of had an identity crisis at that point because it's like, wait, this is ministry. That's where I'm supposed to be. That's what I'm supposed to do. And then when I read the book by Joseph Matera, The Divided Gospel, he talks about that divide that through history the church has created. And it was like, wait, so this thing that I'm doing in our business that's sacred too?
Yeah.
And part of me feels like I should have known that, but I'd never had that revelation before. So that was a huge part of taking a step forward for me, and where I am now was breaking that down and understanding, wait, all this is sacred. When we're working in the kingdom and we're doing things for the Lord, like, it's all sacred. It's not one versus the other.
Yeah. I mean, even you talking about like that 10-year time frame, I mean, I would say even at that point where we begin to break off this dualistic mindset, that it really even caused me to want to lean more into business, right? Because it was like, man, no, this is where, this is ministry too, so we get to minister to every one of our employees and do all that. But then, and I was probably like heck no, I'll never like go into vocational ministry.
But on the other side, I was like, heck no, I'm never going to go run this family business. I'm waiting until I get into the ministry.
Yeah, exactly. And so you had mentioned a minute ago about making some mistakes. And I know a lot of times that we view often our mistakes as failures. There's some books out there. It's like Fail Forward and all this stuff. But maybe can you give us an example of a time where you failed, but it ended up yielding kind of some major growth?
Well, I think one area, I was trying to save this, but I think it's important, because I think the biggest area that I feel like I've failed as a leader is usually jumping to conclusions. One book that's been really impactful to me is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and one of those habits is seek first to understand. Yeah. And that's one I've really had to work on, because I am not good at seeking first to understand. I see a problem, I'm going to fix it.
Yeah. Bulldoze it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think one of the biggest mistakes that I've made in leadership is the way that I lead with my family and lead in my family. And the thing that really came to my mind was a really bad interaction that you and I had. It was probably 2017, if I had to guess. And it was a Friday, I remember, because the ladies were leaving for Freedom Weekend. And so you and I were kind of stressed because we were about to have the kids all weekend. But we also needed to work on Saturday. And we got in a really big fight, yelling match in the shop.
Not a proud moment.
No, not a proud moment at all. But I think that's been a moment that has really stuck with me, because I really failed at leading with you and leading in our family at that point. And we made up. I distinctly remember here at the Houston campus, we were in the gym, we went into the kitchen, and we made things right. And I don't think we ever had anything like that happen again. But it was really impactful to me, because it was one of those times that we let our emotions get the best of us instead of looking at the situation and working together as a team.
Well, I think also there was another side of that where both of us in our own regard had to humble ourselves to come back together. Often at times there's one side that takes the lead, but it also brought some perspective of feelings I had and feelings you had that were underneath the surface but weren't talked about.
Right.
Where it could have been, prior to that moment, a really easy conversation of, hey, struggling with some time off or whatever the case was, but it, like I said, we let our emotions get the best of us and our egos and all the things that make poor moments for leaders just explode.
Yeah.
And luckily we were able to push through that. But how often, as leaders, do we either write off the person that we had an altercation with, or whatever the case is, and there ends up being a fracture or a break rather than a coming back together?
And I think that's really important, because whether it's family or an employee or a volunteer at church, whoever it is that you run into, you never want to leave things in a negative way. And I think that's something that's a really high value to me, is making sure that I leave things well and leave people well. So if we ever have a negative interaction with an employee or something like that, I'm always going to take the time to go make it right. It doesn't mean that I'm admitting that they were right. I mean, sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But the most important thing is that we come back together and we work together as a team so that everybody can be successful.
Well, along with that idea of seeking first to understand, a way that I look at that is that I really try to stay optimistic towards all people. That from the basic idea and belief that everybody's good. Everybody can have their bad days. And more than likely, if you are bumping up against a bad attitude or whatever it is, there's probably something going on that, if it's in a workplace, it might not be the time to have the conversation, but at least it helps you kind of maybe take a step back. Like, I can push this. I know we all know where we can push things,
right?
But to what result, what end?
Well, and I think that's a lesson that I've really learned from you, because you are optimistic. You are looking for the best in people, and that's something that I've struggled with, and but because of your great example in looking for the good in people and having faith, big faith for things, it's really helped me grow as a leader, because I'm like, that's something I want to be better at, and you've definitely helped me with that.
Yeah, and it's I always have the what's the end goal? One of the ways, the conversations we have in parenting is like, do we want compliance or do we want the heart?
Yeah.
We can force compliance by making the consequence greater than, whatever the you doing it your way will be.
Yeah.
Whether it's getting fired, getting pay docked, sent home, or whatever it is, that begins to force compliance. But do you actually gain the individual in the process?
Yeah, it's really important to see the person.
Yeah.
Because we can see circumstances, we can see the end goal that we're trying to get to, and really then people just become a tool. And I don't think that, not that I don't think, I know that's not how God wants us to do things. He wants to see people for who they are, because whether they know it or not, they are His son and daughter, and we should treat them as they should be treated, with respect. So, yeah, it's hard sometimes as a leader to see that, because we all have things we want to accomplish, whether it's in the workplace or in the church. We have things that a vision that we want to see happen, and we have to have people to see that vision happen. We can't do it on our own. Yeah. So we have to treat those people with respect, because they're gonna help us get to where God wants us to be. But as leaders, we're also supposed to help them get to where God wants them to be.
And that's where that servant leadership really comes in. And so, we've heard Pastor Don say this before, that, man, there are people out in the workplace that should be in vocational ministry, and there's pastors and people out there that probably are more gifted and should be in the workplace. And so, if somebody is like even struggling with that dualistic mindset, maybe find themselves as a pastor, but are really gifted outside of the church, how would you help them to kind of understand there's more to it, or take that step and really find your groove of what God has made you to do?
I think the biggest thing is surround yourself with people that can really speak truth into your life. And I'm not just talking about an accountability partner. I'm talking about people that can really speak into your life and call out things that are in you that maybe you can't see in yourself. Through the years, I've had multiple leaders be that. I've always had you be that in my life. I've had Nick be that in my life for years. But I think it's really important to have those people to sit down that you can have an honest conversation with, and say, I'm kind of feeling the pull to start a business, or to work in this business, or to go work for this nonprofit instead of being in the church. Or vice versa. I'm really feeling the call to ministry, and that means I got to leave my job. I think it's really important to have people in your life that you can talk to, whether it is a spiritual parent or a friend that you can be honest with and can be honest with you. You need people that can say the hard things to you. And I think when we have people like that in our lives, that we're going to be more successful.
One of the ways that I've even been thinking towards that here recently is, because I've got people that are, somewhat in that straddle in the fence between business and ministry, and I think in some ways you're going to see the fruit, right? If you're planted in the right environment, what's inside of you is going to produce fruit, and it's going to be good, and it's going to be healthy.
Yeah.
So I think we see that people that it's like, are they even trying? And like, it's like they just have the Midas touch, everything turns to gold, and which that's not always reality, but it does come a little easier. And I think that can be a symbol of like what, where God may be leading you in. That you're gifted in.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, you think about, when you said that, it made me think about mining for gold. They're looking for a vein. They're looking for a little bit of gold that's running through the rocks, and then they just chase that vein. So I think when you see somewhere where you're being really fruitful in, chase after that. See where it leads you. But also that comes through education. Whenever the doors really started opening up for me, if staying at the business and running the family business, I'm not a reader. I've never been a reader, but I decided that I wanted to be a reader because leaders are readers. And so I just started trying to find everything I could about business, but from a Christian perspective. And one of the books that really impacted me, there's two. One is Doing Business God's Way by Dennis Peacock, and the other is Heavy Rain by Chris Vallotton. And the combination of those two books really helped me to see the impact that I can have on our community through our business.
That, Doing Business God's Way by Dennis Peacock, that was definitely a groundbreaker for me.
Yeah.
That was on the heels of, Joseph Matera and on the heels of Thomas Hale. So it was just this lining out, but really began to help shape those mindsets and those ideas. And so what were some of the struggles you experienced in making a change from wanting to pursue a career in the church to now pursuing a career outside the four walls? Time
was the biggest struggle. Because if you're going to give your life to something, it's going to require a lot of time from you. So I had to shift my time from being completely focused on the church and doing business on the side to being completely focused on the business, and this probably sounds bad, but doing church on the side.
Yeah.
It's really what it came down to, and that was a hard shift because leadership at the time, they're not here now, but leadership at the time, they didn't fully understand what I was trying to articulate, what God was really talking to me about. And I had a lot of pushback from that. But now where I'm at, I can see that it was necessary, and it was hard because church is good, right? We're doing good things. All of the things that we have at any community transformation church is good. And so it's hard to say no when something is so good. But sometimes you have to weigh that time and where do I need to be? So I needed to be in our business. There was a season where I needed to step away from church leadership to really focus on our business, and I did that for about a year and a half or 2 years, and really just stepped back into things about a year ago.
And through that, part of that was, my decision to leave the fan business. You're welcome. Where you had to step up in some different areas and pick up some slack. And so I think that's one thing that is great about, our senior leadership through, Don and Susan, along with each of our campus pastors, is that they see the value of service inside the church, but also it's about helping you find your purpose and giving you permission to, at times, pursue what God has for you. Because if we are really, as a church, for the equipping of the saints, it's not just for bringing you in to serve our vision, our purpose. No, it's actually us here to help serve you, your vision, your purpose.
Right.
And that's probably the biggest, I think, dynamic shift that we've seen in the church, where it's moving away from the, hey, come see and be a part of what we're doing, to, hey, how can we help you accomplish what's inside of you?
And it's really cool because I've seen that shift in Pastor Don. We've had multiple conversations where it's always about what are you doing in the community? How's business going? How's your family doing? And it's never been, well, can you do more for the church? Can you give more back here? It's, tell me about what's going on with you, where in the past it hasn't always been that way with some leadership. So I've been very grateful for that shift that we've had here at our church. And I felt more supported through that shift to be able to chase after what I feel God has called me to do.
So if there's some pastors that are out there listening to this and they're like, man, I really want, like, they already identify the people in their church that would fit in the category that they're able to accomplish some great things outside of the church, but they're also leaning on them as leaders inside the church. What advice would you give them on not being afraid to somewhat release them to go do what's inside them to do?
Well, it's two things. I think it goes back to number one is trust. Do you trust that God's going to take care of your church? If this person gives up their leadership position or takes a step back, do you trust that God is going to backfill that position? And number two, do you already have somebody that can backfill that position? Somebody that's coming up in leadership, and maybe they don't do it as well as that person, but if they can do it 80% as well as that person, then it's probably time to transfer that leadership to somebody else.
Yeah, one of the things that I really value, and I can't directly speak to it at the Pasadena campus, but I know for Houston, that Pastor Susan, that, I mean, it is an expectation that you are training someone behind you. It's not, hey, we should do this, maybe. No, it's like, no, who is the individual that you're training behind you? Because, one, you can't get stuck in your spot of leadership. And then also, if you're not moving and progressing and growing, well, then you're not really making way for the next person to progress and grow.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I really value about, our church culture.
And we do the same at Pasadena for sure. I mean, we're always encouraging people to take their next steps. And for most people, that's taking a step of leadership. And yeah, I think we do that very well here.
So in your times of leadership inside the church, how has that maybe shaped or helped you in how you lead teams or lead your company, your business outside of the church?
So the way that it's really helped me is looking for those people that I can trust to give them a piece of the business. And a piece of the business may be, I trust you to manage this team, or I trust you to fulfill this role in the business. So I think it's really helped me to see that the value in other people and what they can provide, and also giving them enough rope to where they can make some decisions, but I'm still there to support them.
Yeah. So what are what's some advice or some leadership that the church could learn from the business world, but also vice versa, that the business world could learn from the church?
I mean, I think it really goes back to both of those. It's trusting. It's trusting that God's going to bring you the people that you need, whether it's in church or out of church. And I really believe that when we can trust people, we can give them responsibility and allow them to grow in the role that they're in, that they're going to be more successful in life. And I think that goes across both ways, whether it's inside the church or outside the church. And honestly, inside the church is a great place to grow leaders because you can put them in charge of people and they can learn some really good leadership skills that maybe they don't have inside their jobs. And I've seen people that have taken next steps inside church to lead teams that have taken next steps outside of the church and have received promotions or other opportunities in their job that's really been a benefit to their family. So I think when, on both sides of it, when we allow people room to work, room to lead, room to make mistakes even, then that's how we're going to grow people and grow more influence in our community.
Yeah, when you keep on mentioning trust, and from my perspective, the other side of that is fear, right? And oftentimes I feel like we get our fear rooted in potential outcomes, and I think that whenever we can really dive into what's driving our trust or driving our fear, to know that, like, hey, God is actually like in a good mood, and He's on the sidelines, He's in the middle with you, like He's right there with you.
Yeah.
And not that you can't fail, but He's not just waiting on the side for you to mess up and just strike everything down that you're working on.
Yeah, and really, I keep going back to trust because it's such a fundamental part of how I live my life. I have to trust God in everything. And if I say I trust God, but, then you don't trust God.
Right.
And so I always want any root of untrust or unbelief to be removed from my life, because I want to trust in Him completely. And also, like you said, He's in a good mood. God is a good Father. He's not waiting for us to fail. He's not waiting for us to screw up and be like, I told you so.
Yeah.
No, He wants us to do well. He wants us to succeed in life. That doesn't mean we won't fail, but He's going to be right there to scoop us up and say, it's okay, you got it. Let's make things right and let's keep moving forward.
Yeah. So you had mentioned earlier about kind of having a little bit of an identity crisis, at that moment of, okay, am I giving up on this dream of vocational ministry and pursuing business? And so I'm sure there were low times and low moments of realizing that business would be the path for you. So how did you kind of grapple or deal with that fear and confusion and different emotions that kind of rise with those shifts in life?
Well, the first thing I did when I started feeling a shift coming was I went away. I got away so that I could get away from all the noise of church and life and everything. And we actually took a family vacation. It was one of the first bigger vacations we had taken with our boys. And we went to Colorado. And when we went, Tamada and I had talked about it before, and I told her I'm specifically doing this not just to hang out with kids, but I need some quiet time because we need to make some big decisions in our life.
Yeah.
And in that, God really cemented the next steps for me and what He wanted to do. I would say some of those days were some of my darker days because I really was living in confusion. I was hurt by some things that had happened, and I wanted to run away from it all. I'd mentioned that I was an operator out one of the plants. I'd spent 8 years out there, and I wanted to go back there so bad. And I was like, if I just go back, it's easy. Like when I walk out the gate at the end of the day, like it's done. I don't have to think about it. But thankfully, I didn't make that decision, and it took a few months, but God convinced me, no, this is where you need to be. You need to be in the business, and I want you to be there for the future of this business. Our grandpa started this. It's 50 years ago this year. Is what we're celebrating, and I feel like my responsibility is to continue that legacy of our family and to grow our influence and our legacy in our community, because I want to expand the kingdom. It's not to get a lot more money in my pocket. It's so that I can expand our influence in our community, and I've seen a lot of growth from that.
Well, might be putting you on the spot. I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, but I mean, how many employees do y'all have now?
We have about 25 employees.
So 25 employees. So that's 25 families, individuals that you get to have a direct influence and conversation with, and that otherwise, they probably wouldn't walk in the church doors or walk into situations. So,
and it's not about witnessing to them every day. It's about just showing
burn.
Yeah. No, it's showing them kindness.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that we were told growing up is if you don't get them to church and their blood's on your hands. No, their blood's not on my hands. I'm here to love them as Jesus loves us and show them that love. And you're right. It's 25 people that have families and friends in a circle of influence that we don't have. Mm-hmm. So if I can positively influence them, then they can positively influence their family, which may change a neighborhood or a street, which is how you really transform a community in a city.
Yeah. And so you're leading business and you're doing all those things, but that's not the only thing. One of the things I was thinking about is how maybe somewhat at random, you started feeling this desire to go back and finish your degree, with accounting and different things. And then you land yourself at the chamber. Mm-hmm. And day one, a mess gets uncovered. Mm-hmm. And you get strategically positioned to be able to come in and with fresh eyes, fresh look, and begin to fix some financial issues. And so, I don't know. Let's just talk about that.
Okay.
Let's just dig, not the situation, not that, but just dig in about how being outside the church, God was actually able to strategically position you in a spot to have impact on the community. Yeah.
So I had signed up, volunteered to serve on the board at our local Chamber of Commerce. And Nick was already serving on the board. And on the very first day, the very first board meeting that I went to, there was some financial discrepancies that were uncovered by an employee. And so it's all public now. It's been tried and settled and everything. But whenever I got my first set of financial reports, I had noticed it was in the same software that we use at the shop. So I'm like, hey, I'm familiar with this program. If you need help, let me know. Well, yeah, then I immediately found myself, I think within the next week, being the chair of the finance committee and unraveling all of the mess. But I know that God strategically put me there for that moment. Because the leader of that organization, she needed a lot of faith-filled people to support her in that time. She's a believer and loves Jesus with all her heart, and so she needed people like me, like Nick, and like so many others that are faith-filled people that are part of the chamber to come behind her and support her, and so that we could get past this. And I'm grateful for where I was able to serve, because now the chamber's in a better financial position than they even thought they were before all of this happened. And it's been such an honor to do that. But I will say, be careful of your yes. Yeah. Because you don't know where your yes is going to lead you.
Well, so this is kind of where I was leading to want to talk about that, like, of how, let's just say from a previous mindset or understanding, if you would have found that out day one, I mean, I'll speak for myself, but my thoughts is like, you'd be like, that's the devil over there. Like, I don't need to be a part of that. Like, y'all get y'all's mess away from me, but it was actually your light that God needed to infiltrate the darkness and expose the darkness.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, in a previous mindset, in a previous paradigm, I would have never said yes to serve on the board to begin with, because that's the world. Yeah. It's more important what I do inside the church, not outside of it. But because of that, and because of other areas that we've engaged in our city, we've seen corruption exposed every time we've stepped our feet in the door of an institution in our city. Every time we've entered into prayer inside one of those institutions, within weeks, sometimes days, things have been exposed. And it's because we're taking that light into the dark places.
And I think that's, to me, something that's really important to highlight, in this conversation, that we started it with, okay, vocational ministry, your call to full-time ministry, But now we're sitting here talking because of your business position as a community business owner. It gives you the proximity to places where if you show up as a pastor, I mean, there's just already an idea around that individual. Like, I mean, Nick, we know a lot of people know Nick. I mean, he walks in a room, he carries himself a certain way, but there is a level of, oh, hey, pastor, that a business person just doesn't walk in, that you begin to get access and conversations that maybe a pastor doesn't really get.
Yeah, because in a way, I get to fly under the radar.
Yeah.
Which is good for me. I don't need to be the guy standing in front all the time. I'm good with flying under the radar. But in that, yeah, it's given me opportunities to have conversations and be in rooms where decisions are being made that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to be in if I hadn't understood my responsibility to engage with what's going on around me.
And so now, I mean, you are really making steps in ministry, marketplace ministry, that are far exceeding what you could have ever done, on staff at a church, worshiping, being a worship pastor, or whatever the capacity would have been. You're making more impact, and I think that's where, like I said, we can have this fear inside the church that it's the dark world out there. But it's only dark because we're not showing up in it.
Exactly. And that's so important for us to understand. We want to fight against the darkness. We want to say, oh, well, the world's getting darker and darker. Well, it's only getting darker and darker because we're the light and we're refusing to engage with the world.
Yeah.
If we want to see the world get better and we want to see things improve, then we've got to engage. We've got to be a part of what's happening around us. Because when we walk in the door, we carry a certain amount of authority that the enemy's got to go. I mean, I don't have to cast the enemy out. Because I'm there, he's got to go.
Yeah.
He has no place. Because a son has taken his responsibility and walked into the doors of a place and taken my authority as a son.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like just being able to show up in that mess of the chamber and be who you are, it wasn't me that needed to be there. It wasn't Nick or somebody else. I mean, it was literally God needed you, Fred Floyd, to be in that room and be in that position. And so I love that. But how do you kind of remain true to who you are and your God-given identity in more secular environments?
I think it goes back to what I mentioned earlier about having people around you that can support you. It's being able to be grounded, because it's very easy. You can step into a place, you can get a little bit of a notoriety, and then your ego starts to get inflated.
Yeah.
And then you think it's you that's put you there and not God.
Yeah.
So I think having people around you that can keep you grounded is extremely important. People that are walking the same path as you. I mean, we were born to run together. We're brothers. Nick and I had talked about it for 10 plus years now that we were made to run together. And so the three of us, we have like minds. Mm-hmm. And even though we have different paths, we all have the same end goal. Mm-hmm. So it's important to have people in your life that can help you stay grounded. But it also comes through devotion, relationship with Jesus, making sure that you're putting him first. Mm-hmm. As I mentioned, becoming a reader has been very important to me. And a lot of that has come through devotion, spending time with him, starting my day with him is extremely important, because some of the things that we've encountered with the chamber or our community, I couldn't have gone through if it hadn't been for knowing that Jesus is there, knowing that he's supporting me.
So one of I say this to different people, that we have a high value of finding your purpose. Your God-given purpose. God created you. Just like any inventor or creator makes something, it's for a specific reason and purpose, and that's the same thing that your Creator made you in. Mm-hmm. So then we can often get locked into our purpose, but really, I believe that's more of a byproduct of your intimacy with the Maker, mm-hmm. and your connection with the Maker, rather than just the effort that you put out.
Yeah.
And so would you say for you, like that, that's true? That the more that you're in that communion with God, the easier and better that those situations turn out versus you just getting in there and performing to your talents and your abilities, but that's in your own strength, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, we can do a lot in our own strength. We could both leave here today with our business knowledge, and we could start something and probably be pretty successful at it in our own strength. Is that what God's called us to do? Probably not. Probably not in this season. But we can accomplish a lot on our own. But when we rely on Him, I mean, the exponential factor of Him and His presence in our life it's unbelievable what we can accomplish.
Well, I found for myself that, like, finding that sweet spot of, like, almost peace, right? That's like, I'm not going to push. There is times where God's like, hey, push here, but then there's also times where it's like, hey, let's slow it down a little bit. But finding that kind of flow, so to speak, to me is like the sweet spot.
Yeah. I think there's a balance. It's not always a popular word, but I think there is a balance, and sometimes that balance shifts. Just in the last 2 weeks, I've had to shift more towards focusing on the business and focusing less on some of the other things. But there's seasons where that balance shifts, and I'm focusing on other things outside of the business and a little less on the day-to-day of the business. So I think it's being obedient and really listen to Holy Spirit and paying attention to where do I need to spend my time right now.
Yeah, there's been times where, I'm not getting the outcomes that I desire. I was talking to a friend, we've got a listing and, we've done the things, but it's just not moving. So my natural response is like, well, what am I not doing? Like, there's something I'm missing. I've got to make it happen. And I've made it a practice when I feel that feeling in those moments. I'm like, okay, Jesus, is there anything that I should be doing that I'm not? There's sometimes He's like, you're good. And then there's sometimes it's like, no, you need to go do A, B, and C. And then I go do that. And then I just let it go from there.
And I think that comes from that relationship with Him. Just like with your spouse or your kids or a friend, you've got to have that open dialogue. And with our Father, it's an open dialogue as well. I mean, every day I start the day with, I invite you into my day. Show me where I need to focus some attention today. Show me some things I need to work on, because I want to fulfill His purpose ultimately. And so, yeah, it's that having that open dialogue with Him. And we want a lot of times to speak against stress. I think there's a healthy stress. Sometimes we're under pressure to do things, and it's not a bad thing because it's that pressure that creates growth.
Yeah.
It's that pressure that gives us the strength we need when we do face a bad day and we've got to get through that day.
Yeah, it's getting that grit, right? But I think there is this finding that, like, what's an unhealthy stress, right?
Yeah.
So maybe there is a different term, but I definitely understand what you're saying, where it's like, no, like, God's gonna, continue to pull you through something. I mean, it's like we've used the working out analogy, countless times, like, oh, it's the resistance that builds your strength and all of that. So what are some practical ways that you kind of bring kingdom values and principles into the spaces that you find yourself in, whether it's church, business, community, or whatever?
For me, it starts with servant leadership. I'm here to serve. And that comes from looking at the example of Jesus. Jesus said that the Son of Man didn't come to be served, but to serve. And you see that throughout His life, the way that He served those that are around Him. So that's the number one thing. I'm here to serve my employees. I'm here to serve my pastors. I'm here to serve my leadership at the chamber or anything else I'm involved in. I'm here to serve. I think that's one really important kingdom value. Another for me is respect. I want to treat people with respect. I want to treat others how I want to be treated. And that goes a long way, especially with people that you're leading, because if you're really disrespectful to people, you may get some outcomes from them, but ultimately you're not building them up. You're just tearing them down to get what you want.
Yeah. So in business, of course, there's some high highs, but there also comes some low lows. And so what are some ways that you kind of cope and deal with those stresses that come along with those highs and lows?
Really being able to set myself apart. We've instituted a practice of Sabbath in our family, and not a strict religious Sabbath, but on Saturdays is a day of rest for us, and we don't go anywhere or do anything before noon. It's just kind of our rule in our family, and it's not so that we can just lay around and be lazy. I mean, there is an element to that, but it's so that we can set time aside to really focus and be refilled by Jesus. And most of my Saturday mornings are about 3 hours sitting on the back porch reading or watching the hummingbirds fly around the backyard, or, the doves flying around. I mean, maybe I'm getting old because I notice birds now. I don't know.
I was going to ask. Okay, so we literally do the same thing. Like our whole family ends up at some point fascinated. We've got 3 hummingbirds, and they fight each other. And this is a new hobby. This is like the last 2 weeks this has started happening. But anyways,
well, I've got a hummingbird feeder in its glass, and Nick saw it the other day, and he was like, "Man, you're feeding them hot nectar." They're like, "Ow, ow." But they keep coming back. So.
Yeah, I mean, they like it.
But yeah, it's just really spending that time and purposefully slowing myself down, because I can run 100 miles an hour, but I get to the end of the week and I'm worn out, and I need that time. And I can tell on the occasions where we don't have that time, I can tell that that I've missed it, because my mind is not in the right place. My intentions aren't in the right place. And I think, going back to what you said about stress, yes, stress can really have some negative connotations, but I think it's when it starts robbing you of your peace and your joy and your love for others, then that's when it's bad stress, and you need to walk away from that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're kind of winding down, but this is called Leadership Blueprint. And so what would you say is a marker of your leadership whenever you show up?
I think an area that really began to grow my current leadership style was when I was at the plant. I was asked to attend some training sessions on leadership, and one of the biggest things that our plant manager said at the time, he talked about flipping the triangle. Typical leadership triangle is the president or CEO at the top and everybody else underneath. Well, his style was flipping the triangle, and it comes from that servant leadership of, I'm here to serve you, not you're here to serve me. So that was a really big marker for me. But then also understanding from my church background that God loves people. He loves the people that are around me, and He wants them to come to know Him and be in relationship with Him. So I should treat them the way that they deserve to be treated. Whether they act that way or not, they deserve to be treated in a certain way.
So I want to get practical for a minute. So we say, servant leadership, flip the triangle upside down, and it makes for good statements. But I mean, there is a hierarchy, especially within business, that comes because depending on what position you're in, you have a different level of responsibility. And I know at the shop there's drivers, there's helpers, and things that you would consider like the lower level employees. So how do you, as the CEO, leader, whatever of the business, how do you serve those individuals?
So my biggest focus, if I have a directive, something that I want done, I have managers in place, so I go to them. And I let them delegate that out to employees, because I want to just have an open relationship with employees. I don't want them to think every time I'm coming to them it's because I'm asking them to do something. I want to know how's things going with you. How's your kids? How's your wife? How's your family doing? You got any plans this weekend? Oh man, yeah, the Astros looked terrible last night.
Yeah.
You know, well, I mean, we did win last night, but barely.
Barely.
Anyway,
Brady tried to.
yeah, Brayu did his best to give it
Yeah.
up, but anyway, it's neither here nor there. But but I want to have that open relationship with our techs, our drivers. So I try to, any directive type stuff, I try to feed that through our managers. But also with our managers, I'm constantly asking, how can I help you? What do you need? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Is there something I can do for you?
Yeah.
And it's just looking for those opportunities to maybe take something off of their plate that maybe they don't feel that stress and pressure. Or, hey, I got this. Go home early today. You know, just looking for little ways that I can really give back to them. And sometimes that giving back is time. Sometimes it's through bonuses. Sometimes it's through a kind word.
Yeah.
And I think it's really being sensitive to the person and their personality and maybe what they need that day. And again, I think that goes back to listen to Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's something that is maybe seems not as important, but a way that you serve your managers is by not overstepping their authority. Because as soon as you do that, then you've circumvented the whole authority structure, and now every employee is coming to you whenever they need something versus submitting to that. So I think that's definitely an interesting thing to think about. You know, how you can serve your managers through their leadership.
And one thing our family has always said is that if you take care of the customer, everything else will follow. Well, really through Chick-fil-A, I've learned if you take care of the employee, then they're going to take care of the customer.
Yeah.
So that's really something I've learned through one of my friends that operates at Chick-fil-A is, man, if I take really good care of my employees, then they're going to feel more secure. They're going to feel more safe in what they do, and they're going to feel like they can take risk and to make the customer happy. It's really creating a place of hospitality when people enter into our business, and that starts with the way we treat our employees.
Yeah, because I mean, they are the ones that you have the most interaction with, and so there's some customers you have more or less with, but it's momentary and it's transactional.
Right.
But with your employees, it's relational, it's long term, and so yeah, serving them, caring for them, and they're going to share whatever culture principles you have. They're going to share that to your customers.
If I show them respect, then they're going to show our customers respect. If I serve them well, they're going to serve our customers well.
One of the things I've been saying lately and repeat again is whether you intentionally have it or not, you have a culture. Your business has a culture. Your church has a culture. Some people are intentional about creating a certain type of culture. Talking about Chick-fil-A. If you show up to Chick-fil-A and say thank you, you know they're going to say my pleasure.
Yeah.
That's a intentional culture that they create.
I heard a quote the other day that I loved is by Peter Drucker. He said that culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Oh, wow.
You can have the best strategy in the world, but if you have a bad culture, then you're not going to be successful ultimately.
That can sting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, why'd you drop that at the very end? Because now I'm sitting here thinking about it, like, man, it's so true. Because, I mean, to be honest, I've been in a lot of environments that great intentions, great strategies, but not the best culture.
Yeah.
And the culture always leads the way.
I mean, we've served in different churches. We've served under different leadership at times where maybe on the front things were looking really, really good. They had great worship, great messages, all that kind of stuff. But behind the scenes, the culture was bad and it was toxic, and people didn't really stick around.
Yeah. All right, we'll chew on that for a little bit. And so, with leadership, we have a lot of wins, but we also take on some loss. We take some L's. So what is a leadership L that you've had to take in your life?
Well, I shared my biggest one earlier. the one that sticks with me the most. But I was thinking about another one. So back when we were first married, and this is like 2000.
Not me and you.
Not me and you. No. Okay. Although there's been plenty of times that people have thought I was married to Larissa and you were married to Samada.
Okay,
But
let's just sit there for a minute. I'm like, let's see if post-production we can just get some pictures up where it's going to be like Larissa here and Samada here. And we're just going to just post that and be like, okay, Larissa is Jeremy's wife. Tamada is Fred's wife. They look nothing alike.
And my name is Fred or Freddie.
Yeah.
Not Jeremy.
Yeah. I'm bald. He's still trying to hang on to what he has.
Barely.
Okay. So hopefully that clears up some things for all of you folks out there. So anyways,
back right after we were married, we were serving at a church, and I was leading worship for the youth. And at the time, I was not very patient. My patience has been a long time coming. It's probably been the biggest thing that Jesus has worked on throughout my years. It took him about 20 years at least to work that out in me. But anyway, so I had a couple of girls that were 15 at the time, and they were singing on the worship team at youth. And they were the most chatty girls. I mean, you'd start talking, and they were just still going nonstop, just da 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 da. And finally, most practices, I would have enough and be like, "Can you just shut up?" And inevitably, one of them would cry, and then I'd have to spend time going back and saying, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that, but we're trying to practice here." And so that, I was thinking about that. That's kind of a funny one to me. But it's cool because, man, every once in a while I see those two girls, and they're both serving. One of them serving in ministry, and her husband are involved in Teen Challenge, and the other one actually married a worship leader, and they're serving there and doing great in life. But, I look back on that, I was like, man, if I'd just been a little more patient with them. I think that's the thing. Like I said earlier, the thing that's always got me in trouble is jumping to conclusions or reacting without thinking about it, and that was definitely one of those times.
Well, and what we know now through personal growth is that you just needed some quiet time. You just needed some noise-canceling headphones or something. You were just overstimulated.
Exactly.
It's okay. Just needed your time out. So you didn't know about this segment.
Okay.
And so we're
Now I'm
surprising
scared.
this one. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's good. So we like to do a would you rather.
Okay.
So I'm going to put you in a scenario, and you got to choose.
Okay.
So would you rather have to attend every chamber meeting in a mascot costume for a year, or let your most frustrating customer run your business social media for a month?
No.
Pass.
Pass. Next, please. No, if you were asking Nick, he'd be like, I'll show up in a mascot costume Like, you don't have to challenge him to that.
Yeah, that's why we didn't ask him this question. We asked you.
Yeah. I think I'd rather let a frustrating customer run my social media. Because, number one, we're not great at social media, so we don't have a bunch of followers. Yeah. So, there's not a lot of damage there, but, maybe there's some growth opportunity I could learn from them. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. I'm just still thinking about having to show up to a professional meeting in a mascot costume.
That sounds like a nightmare.
You did it at the one of the events, chamber events.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was probably tough enough for you.
Yeah, that was tough. That was one of those that Nick talked me into, and I don't think I knew what I was getting myself into. What's worse is, so our family, we're Aggie fans, right? I got a future Aggie, and he made me dress up as a Longhorn.
Yeah,
It was the last costume left, and to this day he won't let me live it down.
Costume left.
Right, exactly. So that was a little embarrassing.
That's all right. So, well, that kind of wraps us up today. So, just want to say thank you again for joining us. I do believe that there was some good things discussed that hopefully people can take away and apply, or at least make them begin to think about stuff. And so, again, thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. And just please remember to share this to all your friends, your family, your coworkers, anybody that you might think would benefit from this. And so, new episodes drop every first Sunday of every month. And so, again, tune into your favorite place for podcasts. And we'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us on Leadership Blueprint.
I want to take a minute and tell you about an annual conference that we host. It's called Empowerment Conference, and it's for pastors and ministry leaders from all over the world that come together to have a time of fellowship and to be refreshed, renewed, and resourced. Not only spiritually, but we give them practical resources to go back and impact their communities and their spheres of influence for the kingdom. This conference happens on the last Tuesday through Thursday of every September every year. There's lots of ways that you can get involved with Empowerment Conference. Maybe you're a pastor or a ministry leader that's looking for somewhere to come and connect with other pastors. You can get involved in that way. We offer scholarships for those who may not be able to afford to travel to a conference. Or maybe you own a business and you're looking for some opportunities to come and network with other businesses and ministry leaders. This is a great opportunity for you to come and have a booth in our vendor area and just have an opportunity to network with other people. So in whatever capacity you're looking to connect with Empowerment Conference, you can head to empowermentconf.com or click the link in the episode description to get more information and even register for this year's conference. We hope to see you there.